Hi everybody, welcome back to tnoozLIVE at GBTA, presented by BCD Travel. I'm Martin Cowing, Editorial Director for Tnooz. I'm here with Alan Rich, who is CEO of ChromeRiver. ChromeRiver is an expense solutions business, and I will just pass you over to Alan shortly to give you a bit of a better explanation about what his successful business does. So Alan, what is ChromeRiver?
So expense management is the very basics of almost every business in the world. When people go on a business trip, they need to turn in their expenses and get reimbursed, or if they're using the company's credit card, they need to justify what they were using the card for and what the purpose was. The software that manages that, the approval process, checks for fraud, checks the validity of the things, the whole process is what our software does.
So it's that really clever stuff in the back end that nobody really understands.
Well, everybody uses it, though.
Everybody uses it.
Touches the life of every employee in the largest companies in the world.
Excellent, okay. So I've got you here today. I would have liked to have got you here tomorrow, but you've got a busy day. So let's talk about the panel you're talking on tomorrow. It's the title of which is How to Talk to the C-Suite About Travel and Expenses. And it's quite interesting. I just sort of wonder, at the very highest CEO level, do they look at the expenses and think, oh my goodness, look at how much we've spent on Starbucks this week? Or have they got bigger fish to fry? So how do you talk to the C-Suite about travel and expense?
So I think the traditional focus had been on looking at expenses as a cost control mechanism. Like you say, how much are we spending on airfare or hotels or things like that? But at this point, I think most companies have mastered the art of controlling their costs and have optimized it. So I think the opportunity to talk to C-suites today is how to create value in a company. So I'm going to focus tomorrow on two particular points. One is, we want to deliver a digital experience to every single employee. As I mentioned, everybody uses it, and it's a sign of the company caring about their employees. And if you want to be a company who's trying to deliver cool products to your customers, you have to deliver cool tools to your employees. And I think that message is one message that the CEO at the highest levels of a company cares about.
So I mean, if you're a sort of high-tech company, you don't want your business travelers filling in their expenses through Excel spreadsheets. You want to...
That's true, and today I think in every company who's distributing their products across the internet or on e-commerce sites or is trying to be innovative in their product, everybody's in that boat, not just tech companies.
Okay. And you said there were a couple of other points?
There's one other point that I think is interesting is, I view an expense reporting system kind of as the system of truth. Everybody has to fill in expenses. The government requires that you say who you entertained at your meals. So we know it's how people are spending their money. And we can use that to help companies manage their customer interactions more effectively than they ever have in the past.
Okay.
So you might think of us as a very interesting business intelligence solution that shows a company an aspect of their business that was hard for them to understand before.
I mean, is there a sort of data business intelligence analysis quotient to what you do?
Exactly. So we know how you're spending the money, and now we know who you're spending it on, which prospects, which opportunities, which customers. And we're doing things like taking your total spend and displaying it geographically on maps so you can zoom in and see how your sales team, your account management team is spending their money. So we're hoping not to just be a tool that the finance department cares about, but the revenue generating parts of a company also care about it.
Okay, that's quite interesting. I mean, you talked about the map thing. I mean, is that sort of like a regional map or a global map?
It's a global map, but then you can start to zoom in and, you know, just like your Google Map thing.
Why are we spending 5 times more in New York than we are in Florida? Yeah,
are we spending it wisely?
Okay. That's a fairly unsubtle segue into a question I've got about the internationalization of your business. I know you've got a deal with Yatra in India, which is one of the big OTAs there. They've got a very strong corporate travel business. I know you've just opened an office in Germany. So I'm just wondering, in terms of the ChromeRiver business, I mean, is the focus more on trying to win more business in what is known as a mature market, or are you looking at these so-called emerging markets, the growth potential that there? I mean, just wondering, when you're allocating your sales teams to go on the road, I mean, are you sending them to mature markets, or is it the emerging markets where you think the most intense growth profile exists.
So what's interesting is that as companies become global, an American company deeply cares about their employees in India and China and everywhere else in the world. So the overlap between companies that might be headquartered in India or companies that are headquartered elsewhere but are operating in India is, there's a big overlap between those two areas. And places like India also, that we may think of them as emerging markets, but they're very sophisticated tax regimes and global and corporate compliance requirements. That means it's complicated to operate in those countries. So our goal is to help our customers operate globally and make sure we're handling all those areas. Before, we focused on global companies operating in India. What Yatra and our relationship with them has enabled us to do is focused on global companies that are headquartered in India and are now operating there as well as elsewhere in the world. So we see that as a huge opportunity.
Yeah, because there are some enormous businesses headquartered in India that are operating.
That's right,
globally,
operating in around the world. That being said, Europe is a big opportunity for us.
Yeah.
We've been operating for many years in the UK, but our being in continental Europe and actually having a team of people there speaking local language, selling to local companies is a big opportunity for us now.
Okay. So as Tnooz, we're global. We're at the GBTA, which is the Global Business Travel Association. So we've done the global thing. I mean, and another theme of the GBTA is innovation. Innovation is one of the things that Tnooz is passionate about in all aspects of travel, leisure travel, corporate travel, expense solution, software business. I'm just wondering, in terms of your own sort of innovation, do you work with startups, or do you tend to do your own sort of internal innovation? Have you got sort of a strong in-house tech team that you use to develop your products, or do you tend to partner with sort of other people from outside the business?
So let me introduce the answer to that by saying that ChromeRiver's sort of an underdog in the industry.
Yeah.
There's been other companies that have been there before we were, and we win only by having a better product. So innovation has to be in our DNA. It's what actually inspires the customers to buy the ChromeRiver product. Our particular focus is much more on internal innovation than looking outside the company. So we watch what is happening, whether it be in image processing, whether it be in machine learning, whether it be in platform integration and API worlds, all the different things that are happening in the tech space, and we look at how can we bring those innovations into our travel industry. And I think we've been incredibly successful at that, and we never take our eye off of that ball. Okay,
so I was going to ask you about sort of like enterprise tech trends that you're watching, but it seems as if it's almost everything that's happening in the tech world that you think might have a benefit to what ChromeRiver can offer its clients. So
that's right. So we'll look at something that's happening outside of our space and say, how can we bring that into our kind of enterprise software? And it's surprising. I mean, you might say, you think of Alexa from Amazon, for example, as a consumer product, but you could use it to, approve your expense reports while you're driving home from work. You think of machine learning as perhaps an area that applies to language translations or other things like that, but it's an area that we can apply to making the employee's life just a little bit easier while they're doing an expense report.
No, I quite like the idea of having an Alexa in the car saying, Alexa, just file my accounts for that
That's
meal
right.
I've just had. That's sort of real.
Why waste those
presumably
few seconds?
that's proof of concept stage, not implementation.
That's right. Yeah, it is.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Alan. Nice talking to you. So that was Alan Rich, CEO of ChromeRiver, Expense Solutions Plus. I think it's much more complicated than I think people often give it credit for. So thanks very much for joining us, Alan. I'm Martin Cowan. I'm editorial director for Tnooz. This is Tnooz Live at GBTA, presented by BCD Travel, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you very much.